Well, hello, it's Friday, July 18th. Today we're going to be talking about Deuteronomy chapter 8 and kind of continuation on 7. We talked about the greatest command, then, hey, this is what you're supposed to do to the people to remain pure so that you're not distracted. And then chapter 8 is, don't forget what God's done for you. Remember what God has done for you. Moses continues, the whole commandment that I command you today, you shall be careful to do, that you may live and multiply and go in and possess a land that Yahweh swore to give to your fathers. You shall remember the whole way that the Lord your God has led you these 40 years in the wilderness, that he might humble you, testing you to know what was in your heart. I think sometimes something happens that goes wrong, and our first inclination is to say, oh, I'm being punished. Why is everything going wrong? Why does a bad thing happen to a good person? Well, look at Israel in the desert. Testing you to know what was in your heart, whether you would keep my commands or not. God knows our heart. God knows what's going on there. But we have a choice. Are we going to be obedient? Are we going to follow his commands? Or are we going to go off and do our own thing? So that was punishment for some in the desert, but it was also testing for the next generation. Are you going to follow me? Do you actually love me? And does that love produce fruit? Does that love produce faith? Do you trust God? So, and then he goes into, he humbled you and let you hunger, but fed you with manna, which you did not know. And then there's another part of this verse that is very important that Jesus quotes when he's being tempted by Satan, that he might make you know that man does not live by bread alone, but man lives by every word that comes from the mouth of the Lord. See, some of these books seem boring. Understanding the Old Testament helps you understand the New Testament. Why would Jesus say that? Well, because Jesus was around back then. He's a member of the Godhead. When God was testing Israel, he wanted them to know bread isn't the only thing you need. Water isn't the only thing you need. You need to follow God too. Your clothing did not wear out on you and your foot did not swell these 40 years. Now, if you think of someone who's walking a lot, A, they need new shoes a lot, and B, their legs might start swelling. It's a small miracle, not really small at all, but it's one that we don't think of, that you're going to be walking all that time. You don't need new clothes. You don't need new shoes. Your legs aren't swelling up. That's pretty darn awesome. Know then in your heart that as a man disciplines his son, Yahweh your God disciplines you. That's kind of correlating to what Jesus says in the New Testament. How many of you, if your son asks for a gift, are you going to give him a rock or a snake? Okay. More illustration that God, your Father, wants you to be disciplined. He wants to test you. He wants to bless you, but he wants to see what's in your heart. Are you going to be obedient? That's kind of what this whole chapter 8's about. Is your love going to produce faith? Is your love and your faith, are they going to produce obedience? So, God is bringing you into a good land, brooks of water, of fountains and springs flowing out of the valleys and the hills, a land of the wheat and barley, of vines, fig trees, pomegranates, a land of olive trees and honey, a land in which you will eat bread without scarcity, in which you will lack nothing, a land whose stones are iron, and out of those hills you can dig copper. So he's taking them to a very resource-rich land. This is your reward for obedience, for the testing that you went through produced obedience. This is your reward. This is what God wants to give you. A lot of times we think, oh man, I'm being tested. This is terrible. Well, Paul kind of gives you the idea of what testing can produce in you, but there's also sometimes a very physical, tangible result. Maybe he does want to bless you with actual physical things, but if he doesn't know that you're responsible because you don't act that way, how can he bless you that? You're going to squander it. How many times when we're being tested, we cling to God, we love God more, we talk to God more. When things are going well, we tend to think, oh, I've done this myself. Just like Israel was going to. Take care lest you forget that Yahweh your God, by not keeping his commands and his rules and his statutes, which I command you today, lest when you have eaten and are full and have built good houses and live in them, when your herds and flocks multiply, silver and gold is multiplied, and all that you have is multiplied, then your heart will be lifted up, pride, and you forget the Lord your God who brought you out of the land of Egypt. That's one of the hardest things to do when things are going well, to have the same desire to pursue God as when things are going rough. When things are going rough, we know that he is our refuge. We know that he loves us, that he's going to take care of us, and we cling to that promise. A lot of times it seems like in church what we don't talk about is obedience can produce blessings because you have been proven trustworthy by your own actions because of your love and your faith. Once that happens, you have to remain faithful. Job didn't do anything wrong to lose all his stuff. That was Satan testing him. He remained faithful. He didn't sin in his complaining, in his sorrow. He didn't sin. And God restored everything. God can restore what we lost, but he has to know that you're going to remember him in the good and the bad. Beware lest you say in your heart, my power and the might of my hand have gotten me this wealth. You shall remember the Lord your God, for it is he who gives you the power to get wealth, that he may confirm his covenant he swore to your fathers as it is this day. And this is maybe more for Israel than the church today, because God promised the Israelites' descendants, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, this land is going to be awesome. Your descendants are going to have it. God didn't say they're going to be tested and we're going to make sure that they're worthy, that they can take care of this land. Maybe there can be some correlation today about if you don't have what you would like, maybe we're squandering what God has given us. Maybe we can be a little more trustworthy with what we've been given. Now, this is a short chapter. It didn't need to take anywhere near this long. But I think this is an area that the church doesn't talk about near as much as it maybe should. Your obedience, your faithfulness, your love for God is important. Yes, we are saved by grace through faith. Obedience matters. The works that James talks about, faith without works is dead. Well, you can say what you want unless you're living it out. Is your faith real or not? No one's going to see it. Can you be faithful through trials? Will you be faithful with what little things you're given, so that then you may be given more because you're responsible enough to handle it? Obedience matters. I think that's the biggest thing you can get out of this chapter. God will test us. Not we all, but generally when we're going through a problem, when we're going through a wall, as emotionally healthy spirituality talks about, we cling to God. When things are going well, we don't need to let go. We need to hug tighter so that we don't get a love of money or a love of things and therefore squander it all and lose it all. If we're getting good things, we can glorify God through that and reach more people, and they will see how we act, and maybe it'll affect them too. It ends with the warning. If you forget Yahweh your God and go after other gods and serve them and worship them, I solemnly warn you today that you shall surely perish. Like the nations that the Lord makes to perish before you, so shall you perish, because you would not obey the voice of the Lord your God. That's for Israel. But does it make sense that it could also be going forward? If God has blessed you as a people because you've proven yourself trustworthy, when you fall, when you start sinning and move away from God, his protection can fall away. I think looking through church history, it's interesting to see throughout even the Dark Ages, kind of the centuries after the church was established, different areas, different countries were kind of responsible for spreading the gospel in different ways. They would do well for a while, fall away, and then that responsibility would be sent to another country. Sometimes a problem over here would result in fruit over here, something not being done over here, because you were distracted and you couldn't do the bad thing that you wanted here. That kept Martin Luther alive probably longer than a lot of people expected. But that's one of those things where don't underestimate the power of God. Now, I think, and I've talked to a few people about this this week. If you're proud of where you've gotten yourself, we give credit and glory to God when we get through something. And we can be proud of how far we've come, what we've gone through with God's help. We can do that going forward as well. We can do that in areas where it seems like we're missing out. A lot of people in dating think, oh, well, it's going to have to be God dropping someone in my lap and I give up and I'm hurt or whatever. Just be obedient. Treat people well. Give control over that to God. Say, you know what, God? My way hasn't working. You've blessed me in this other way. You've gotten me through a lot of things in the past, and this trial that I'm in right now of singleness, which drives me nuts when there are people in the pulpit who are married, and every time there's a Mother's Day, it's like, oh, my wife's the greatest thing that's ever happened to me. But singleness is a gift. You should be happy you're single. It's like, you don't want me to have what you have? I wish the church would do more to teach people how to prepare for marriage. Now, I think that's something that kids do as they grow up with their parents. And I think there are ways to raise your kids in a way, because I've seen it, where they can be ready for marriage. Maybe they won't get married right away, but they can be ready for marriage right out of high school. I think maturity, obedience, respect all come into play. And I pray for all of us that the more we cling to God, the more we follow God, the more we are faithful and obedient to God, that we're in kind of a tighter circle around God. And he's going to bring other people that are also faithful and obedient into our spheres. And we can say, oh, that's someone who's also following God. And I kind of like how they think and they're attractive. And then you have to make a choice, because God's done what he was going to do. You guys know each other. You guys have interacted. And now you go talk to them, and you have to make a choice to do something. Be obedient. You say you want something, you have to act. You can't sit on your couch and expect to lose 50 pounds. You can't sit on your couch and expect to run a marathon. You can't sit on your couch and expect to meet someone worthy of marriage. Be obedient. Love God, love people. Be obedient and just see. Does God bless your obedience? Kind of went off the track here, but that's okay. Have a good Saturday.